Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is January the 13th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1441 on the ancient sun calendar, 2022 on the Greco-Roman civilian calendar, and 5783, I believe, on the ancient Jewish calendar, and 1443 on the civil Islamic calendar. All rise and stand. This is a sovereign, living, ancient, Moroccan, Moorish American court action. We are the sovereign living justices in capitis, diminutio, nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural divine, ancient empire state of Morocco, and the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government, the universal Moorish American consulate, and the Article 3 Moorish American consular court. We are also the ancient Canaanite temple. We are also the de jure Moorish Holy Temple of Science. We are also the de jure Empire State of Morocco Moorish Science Temple of America. And that is under the Empire State of Morocco for us. We are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby exercise all sovereign rights at this time and at all points in time. And let me clarify, all of the temples, the ancient temple of the moon and the sun, are all aligned with the Empire State of Morocco, not under. So let me make sure I clarify that. So there are some financial things that we have been discussing as the state and as the nation, and we want to continue in that vein simply because it's so important, and that has been the one area that we have not, as a people and as the state and as a nation, we are in the process of getting the details of everything that has to do with us financially, those details perfected. We see the progress that has been made, and a lot of the issues that we were having previously financially as individuals, as you know, and this is over the years that we were having, had to do with the cestui trust of 1666 in its corporate form and in its dead form under the dead United States Corporation Company. And now what we're doing is taking all of that, including the cestui Act, and we have weaned all of those who were pretending to be the trustees of anything that had to do with us as the living. And what we are doing now is putting everything in red and all lowercase letters, and in all of the other colors as well, monochrome colors, and taking it back and using it to our advantage. And that, and it's not taking it back, it's creating it newly under and anciently under the sovereign empire state of Morocco. So we create our own, and each Moor can do this, create their own individual empire state of Morocco documents and all of that as fiduciaries for the entire state of Morocco. It is important that we understand that we had to take back capitalism first as a way for us to do all of this, and the only way that capitalism could be properly redressed is by way of a sovereign state. Okay, so I'm going to put a link in the chat with regard to these canons that we're going to go over quickly. And as we know, canons they come from the Vatican, which we're the original Vatican. And canon and canon are derivatives one of the other. We are the original Canaanites, i.e. Canaanites. And so that word was hypothecated and misspelled and, you know, put under the wrong or the dead corporate state. And we are taking that back and making sure that and not taking it back because we don't want theirs. We want ours. We created our own, and everything that we see, and this is ancient. All we're doing is connecting back up with our ancient foremothers and forefathers in all that we do. So we're looking at these as well as all of the other laws, the supreme law for the land and all of that, to see as we operate in our fiduciary capacity, the access to the estate that we need in order to do the things that we need to do. Let me go ahead and put this link in the chat so that you can see these if you need them. Some may already have these canons. Okay, there's the link in the chat if you want to go ahead and grab that. These canons were originally posted on the Vatican website. That's where they originated from. And they were canons that are from, you know, ancient times as well. So hopefully you have had the opportunity to grab that. It will be under this video as well. So if you did not have the opportunity to grab that, you'll still have an opportunity to do that. And I'll put it back up near the end as well. So as we know, as we're going into these canons, when these canons talk about a Roman cult, and they talk about anything that has to do with Rome, Rome has been demonized because it was there was a hypothecated dead Rome. The dead state has never originated any ideas. There's nothing new under the sun. So all that you see, that you have seen in the past the dead state do, they did it by hypothecating something that we did originally. And when we do things like this, we do it for the good of the earth and not to be used for evil like the dead state did. So when they talk about the Roman cult, in these, they're speaking from a place of the dead Roman cult being something evil. Okay? We did cestui, or some say cestui, or something like that. We did that to protect those who could not protect themselves because they didn't have the status to protect themselves, which is the subject. That's why we did cestui in the first place, is we put them in our trust. And then we said, okay, these are some things you can do. These are some things you can use. And this is the conveyance method by which those things can be used. It was never meant for the sovereign heirs. It was never meant for us. We are the trustees of our own vast estate, which is hovering just above the things that we do. Our estate sits above our actions, okay, because the estate is the bloodline and the birthright. So these canons, I was looking at cestui because that has been my study lately, because we have put it, we're putting it in red and all lowercase letters to make sure that it is in its proper place and under the Empire State of Morocco. That way, and the subjects are already getting in line and getting in alignment so that they can take advantage of what they need to take advantage of. However, they're already aware that the heirs are doing what we're doing also. So what they're doing it won't obstruct or anything, any of the things that we're doing. So let's just look at Canon 2047, 2048, and 2050, and I believe 2052. Yes. And these canons, my main interest that I wanted to point out, because it's so important to what we're doing, is Canon 2052, but I wanted to kind of lead up to that. We know this history, but this is the history from the Vatican perspective. We know what happened in 1933 because we know what our prophet did in 1913 with the old Canaanite temple. And then when he did what he did there, and the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, and the things that our prophet did around that time period, these were moved by the Vatican in response to what our prophet was doing. So in 1931, it says the Roman cult, also known as the Vatican, created the Bank for International Settlements for the control of claimed property. And again, citizens' property or subjects and property were the same. Control of claimed property of associated private central banks around the world. Upon the deliberate bankruptcy of most countries, private central banks were installed as administrators, and the global cestui foreign fetus trust system was implemented from 1933 onwards. So, number one, there was no separation of church and state. Just know that never happened. In fact, it was the Vatican who was putting, and this is all of this stuff, the Vatican put the things in place. And this is why it was important for the Vatican to provide the insurance for the policy enforcers and the fake judges and the fake courts. So if you all will remember the 2013 and 2014 quote unquote Pope's letter to Barack Obama, which is, again, we have to say it because in order for it to be valid. But that was them saying we can't do that anymore. We cannot insure you all anymore. We can't insure the policy enforcers, so it's going to have to be put on the military because we can't insure the policy enforcers and all of that anymore. And so this is why that trust, that cestui trust, it wasn't valid in the first place done by the dead state. So after the bankruptcy, And when they say the deliberate bankruptcy of most countries, private central banks were installed as administrators and the global cestui, foreign fetus trust system was implemented. It was foreign because the original indigenous people didn't do it. That's number one. But when we do it, it is a document that says that our subjects are no longer foreign, our land is no longer foreign, and we're not using anything foreign to get the things we need. In the United States, the United Nations General Resolution, when they're speaking about sovereign nations cannot be dependent on anything foreign to get what they need. Okay? And so that has been our job, is to cleanse and purify and make sure that nothing foreign, nothing corporate from the corporate dead state has anything to do with what we're doing. That is how we operate. So in 1933, these private central banks that were installed as administrators of this foreign trust, all of a sudden, around that same time period, they started printing money. Not money, fiat. Let's make that clear. It was fiat. We have photos of that, of them starting to print their own fiat. And anyone who used their fiat according to, and they knew that they were going to do that because in 1913 they implemented the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, stating that if you use their currency, their foreign fiat, that you are a Federal Reserve agent, which automatically puts you right back into that foreign trust. So the reason we're putting cestui in red in all lowercase letters and putting it on the public record is because we need to be sure, and the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, we're looking through that, combing through it, pulling out anything that does not apply to the sovereign, and making sure that it speaks our language. That way, with our delarium, because that's important. We are the empire state of Morocco. That means that anything that the state does, and whenever I say the state or the government, I'm talking about us, all of us, all Moors. I'm not ever talking about a corporation. I will specify when I'm talking about a corporation. And so the reason that those go together, all of that goes together, the Federal Reserve Act of 1913, cestui, and all of that. Cestui did not even really, it wasn't really implemented here until 1933. So some things had to happen in order for that to even apply to this land, or this, in fact, it was just corporate, so it wasn't applying to the land. But because we were not doing what we're doing now, okay, having our own currency and being the empire state that we know that we are, we've always been that. Because we were not doing that, they kicked that in as a measure, and then we know what's been taking place up to that time period. They've been going out and one by one getting contracts that automatically put those who sign those contracts into that corporate cestui trust. And then what happens? The policy enforcers that were insured by the Vatican could come and do whatever they wanted to do. Okay? Because their master told them to. And there was no rebuttal to what was being done. But now there is. We are the rebuttal. We are the law. And so we're just going back through all of the documents, the secret treaty of Verona, going all the way back, all the way back through the documents, and one by one, combing through them, looking at them, putting them in red and all lowercase letters, making sure that the language does not enslave but protects. That's the difference. We've always protected everything and everyone because that's what Mother does. And when I say we, I'm talking all with matriarchal energy, whether it's male or female. Matriarchal energy is almost. We've always protected that which we create. This is no different. So we're using those same principles as we move forward. Okay. Canon 2048, since 1933, when a child is born in a state, same thing, under inferior Roman law, 3 cestui trusts are created upon certain presumptions, specifically designed to deny the child forever any rights to real property. Let me make that a little bit bigger. To real property, any rights as a free person, and any rights to be known as man or woman rather than a creature or animal by claiming or possessing their soul or spirit. We did not know that policy enforcers were acting on the soul and spirit of who they were dealing with because their insurer told them to. That's why energy is so important, because when we have the right energy, we don't match that spirit of war. It's deep because we didn't know that they were claiming souls and spirits. And every time we were using those dead instruments without terminating all corporate contracts, we were saying, take my soul. And so we were saying, I don't have the spirit of my ancestors, so take that too. And then, because slavery is actually enslavement, it happens in the spirit realm first. Then it manifests in the natural. So that's why the Vatican was involved in the way that so let me make this clear. Those policy enforcers, that's right down the street. Now, we're not mad at people. It's the spirit behind the people that we were going to make sure that we got rid of. Okay, this was spiritual from the very beginning. Our teachers have told us it was spiritual, and now we know that. That is why war energy is not the energy that we are, that is not our energy by nature. Revenge and wanting to get back at them and keep pointing at the people, the subjects, those poor dears. They're not poor dears anymore, though, because they are now subject to the lawful state and estate. But that's why they would say, you know, whenever they were doing all of those things that we were looking at them like, what the heck are you doing? I'm saying I'm a Moor and you're doing this and that. I'm just doing my job. So we needed to fire them from that job and that state, and then re-employ them with the sovereign state, which has already happened. Is the minute we put that Constitution out there and we're in our proper status, they don't work for that corporate state anymore. They work for us. But each one of us has to do that. It can't be, no one can do that for you. You have to declare under your own vine and fig tree, and when you do that under your own vine and fig tree, then the spirit changes behind what you do. Now, we've had the same spirit of our ancestors the whole time. They never left us, they didn't forsake us. We had to know it and claim it. We had to. We had to know and claim on the public record and always be in our proper status, always. So this is spiritual first. And then it manifests in the natural. So a while back I had mentioned something about when anyone is born and those corporate documents are placed for, as saying that this is them, those corporate documents are automatic warrants for arrest. I said that previously. This is proof of it. When a child is born in a state or an estate, 3 trusts are created upon certain presumptions. Someone has to rebut those presumptions. If they're not properly rebutted, then those presumptions, they're just out there. And they do their presumptions by corporate dead affidavit. So until they're properly rebutted, and only being born in a state, in a state of mind, of mother and father, can that be fixed. And it can be fixed at any time. Unfortunately, and I won't say that, I'm going to speak in the positive. Fortunately, many of us are not waiting until things get really bad in that dead state before we snap out of it and say, wait a minute, something's not right. I need to find out what's going on here. Why is it that they can pull people over on the side of the road for a broken taillight and they end up in jail for 1.5 years? How does that work? The dead state. They're collecting bodies. That's what habeas corpus is really about. And the only ones who can use a habeas corpus and it actually be effective continuously, because see, what we're doing is we're looking for 100% effectiveness in what we're doing and the processes. And 100% effective is it has to come from a different state, okay? Because see, we'll go into a habeas corpus. We're going to go into it. Whose body is it? That's what habeas corpus is about. Whose body is it? Whose body is the baby? And they would automatically say, well, we don't hear any rebuttal to these 3 trusts that have been created. What's those trusts? A birth certificate, a social security number, and one other one, and you all will know what that other one is. It'll come to me. I know what it is, but it escapes me at this moment. But we have to, and nationality, of course. The nationality. How could I forget that? So nationality of the child, and then what's coming, which state is issuing these documents? Sovereign security number, and birth affidavit. Where is that coming from? Okay, that properly rebuts these fake trusts that were being put up for the baby. Because that was killing the babies, in commerce. Because after that, if they want to come in and take the babies, they will come in and take the babies. They would label the babies wards of the state. Well, when it's done by mother and father, the sovereigns, by their own sovereign state and by their own sovereign hand, then no one can come and get the baby. No one can come and get the baby. No one can come and get the baby. So here, again, it says here that rights to be known as man or woman rather than a creature or an animal, that is so as in the claiming of the soul and the spirit. If an animal claims you and you don't rebut that an animal has claimed you, then the animal says that's an animal too. That's where the United States Corporation Company, the dead one, in black ink, where they were claiming to create all of this stuff, hypothecate and subrogate, that's what they were saying about everyone. Everyone in that system. So what do we say in our system? Our system is everyone lives. Everyone lives. No one there are no human creatures. There are no human creatures. There's human creation. And who created the human? We know the answer to that already. So it's spiritual, Morris is spiritual. And citizens too, it's spiritual. So the citizens need to know as well. Canon 2050. Since 1933, when a child is born, the executors or administrators of the higher estate, knowingly and willingly claim the baby as, and they say here, chattel to the estate. The slave baby contract was then created supposedly, presumably, because we're rebutting this. This is all rebutted. We're rebutting it as we're saying it. It was then created by honoring the ancient tradition of either having the ink impression of the feet of the baby onto the live birth record or a drop of its blood, as well as tricking the parents to signing the baby away through the deceitful legal meanings on the live birth record. This live birth record was a promissory note and was converted into a slave bond sold to a private reserve bank of the estate and then conveyed into a second and separate set of KV trust per child owned by the bank. Upon the promissory note reaching maturity and the bank being unable to seize the slave child, a maritime lien was lawfully issued to salvage the lost property and itself monetized as currency issued in series against the Sedekezi Trust. There, in this canon, is where money comes from. It's also where fiat comes from. If you're a part of the dead state and not willing to be a part of the living state. And when I say part and parcel, we're all the sovereigns. We're all on the same, we're the same. This is not any one Moor's estate. It belongs to all Moors. So the protection lies in all of us standing together with these principles in mind. That also tells us how delarium is used, except that we have to clean the language up so that everyone knows that we're the gold. We know that. We've been saying that. Then we're the value. We're the wealth. Period. Always been that. Knowing that at any time we can create more wealth because our wealth is endless. That's what delarium is all about. That's the principle of delarium. It is created by the source. The source of all wealth is the Moors. So when you get your printer out and you print out delarium, you're creating your own wealth. And so this cestui trust in red and all lowercase letters is going to be very valuable more to what we're doing and to these next steps that we're taking. Okay? So you will want to, it will be ideal if each one of us went to the legislative.uk.gov website and pulled up the cestui trust. And it's going to be written in Old English, by the way. Their spellings look like it looks almost like I wrote it. Because, you know, we use ancient English. I looked at the cestui and I've been studying it, and I'm like, if I didn't know any better, I would think that that was something that I wrote, because that's the way our ancient English looks. So I am actually going to put the link to that, to the cestui trust. Let's see. In the chat, the one that I've been studying and looking at over the last few days and weeks, and actually from the very beginning, really, I just initially in 2017, I wasn't really sure what to do about it. So I did some actions in 2017, and when I look back at what I did in 2017, and this is not about me, I was just trying to find a way to be free. But let me pull up on the screen the cestui trust. Here, because I want us to take a look at it, so that we can see. That's one. Okay. I want you to see the first page. I have it up. I just want you to see the first page of it too. Okay. So I'm going to put on the screen what I'm looking at here also, so that you can see what's going to be put in red and all lowercase letters. And also let me put the link up here to that in the chat so that you can take a look at it as well. There's the link in the chat to the cestui trust. So that will take you straight to this page that's on the screen. And I'll put that also under this video on YouTube. So these canons that came from the Vatican were sent to the United Kingdom, and everything was put on their in their book, so to speak, presumably. Let me put it that way. So let's see. Let me do it quick. Okay, so here is cestui B 1666. You can take a look at it right here. And this is Acts of Parliament. And when you click on that, it's going to take you to these these four parts of it. Cestui is a very long document. It's very long. But here's part, the first page of it. Okay. So first we had to save ourselves from this. Okay. First we had to save ourselves from this. And then, the only way we could save ourselves is declare our nationality. We had to do that. That's the first thing on the list. And then we do what I call the supernatural six. The supernatural supreme six things that we do. Name change, judicial proclamation, termination of all corporate contracts, proclamation of trust, a lien on the social security number issued by the United States Corporation Company, and the nom de guerre, and and just leaving the United States Corporation Company in brackets, in black ink, lien all of that. And then the sixth document is the fiduciary document. And in there, somewhere in there, an allegiance statement stating our allegiance to our sovereign state. Because remember, they had you to stand up and put your right hand over the hand that you sign your documents with, that you seal your documents with. They had you to put that over your heart and say the Pledge of Allegiance. Didn't they? So we have to rebut that too. And state and affirm our allegiance to our own sovereign state. And it's the termination of corporate contracts is a great place to do that. Or the proclamation of trust is a great place to just add an allegiance statement. And again, all of our documents start with the court action language. Our statement of allegiance is there also. We say that our full faith, trust, allegiance, credit, energy, everything belongs to our entire sovereign state, which is us. So this is how cestui looked from the one who was doing business as queen. And you can look at some of the spellings of the words. When I looked at this, I just thought, wow, ancestors, wow, this is, ancient English is proper rebuttal to their old English spells. And I'm sure that's what the ancestors were wanting me to demonstrate first, and then put it on paper, and then they would show that this is why we told you to do that. Because they were not using what they taught you in those schools, were they? No. Because if you took this document right here that they were all living by, supposedly, quote unquote, and you took it to one of those schools, the elementary school that you went to, and you showed them that, they would say, oh no, that's not how you spell. But when they were attempting and pretending and presuming to lord over you, pretending to lord over you, they cast the spells the way they wanted to cast the spells. So it says, if such person or persons for whose life or lives such estates have been or shall be granted as aforesaid shall remain beyond the seas or elsewhere, absent themselves in this realm by the space of 7 years together, and no sufficient and evident proof be made of the lives of such person or persons respectively in any action commenced for recovery of such tenements by the lessors or reversioners, in every such case, the person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate depended shall be accounted as naturally dead. Okay? And in every action brought for the recovery, and we properly rebutted that, and in every action brought for the recovery of the said tenements by the lessors or reversioners, their heirs or assigns, the judges before whom such action shall be brought shall direct the jury to give their verdict as if the person so remaining beyond the seas or otherwise absenting himself or dead. Now, did they not say that judges do not rule from the bench? They don't practice law from the bench? Didn't they say that? That's not what cestui says. That's not what it says there. It says that the judges are to instruct the jury to do whatever they're doing as if the person they're doing their judgment, their deliberation on is dead. That's crazy. But it's right there in writing. Straight from the crown. Straight from the crown. So another part of this that I wanted us to take a look at, because see, cestui is way, it is intense. Let's look at this other part that's printed out, because they put the beginning and the end of this cestui trust document up here on this quote unquote government website. They put it up there. They put the beginning and they put the end of it up there. How it starts and how it stops. It says there, again, this is why the living state, the sovereign state, because this is all about states and estates. It says, provided always that if any person or person or person shall be evicted out of any lands or tenements, just a moment, by virtue of this act, and afterwards. Now, those Moors who've gone through the horrific test of eviction, please pay attention to this, okay? Please pay attention to this. And afterwards, if such person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate or estates depends, again, the whole estate depends on us, shall return again from beyond the seas, or shall on proof in any action be brought for recovery of the same, to be made appear to be living, or to have been living at the time of the eviction, that then and from thenceforth, the tenant or lessee who was out of the same, his or their executors, administrators, or assigned shall or may re-enter, repossess, have, hold, and enjoy the said lands or tenements in his or their former estate. Former estate. We cannot enjoy the land unless we're back at our former estate, the ancient estate. Not a new one that's corporate and dead and hadn't been in existence in any amount of time. Their former estate, for and during the life or lives, or so long term as the said person or persons upon whose life or lives the estate. See, we're not persons in their estate. In their, they don't have an estate, it's a debtor estate. In the corporate estate, I want to make sure I clarify the language. We're not even in that at all. That's why they were saying if you claim that, you're stateless, because that's not a real state. But when you're talking about the sovereign estate, we save ourselves first, and then we say, okay, subjects, you're involved in this also. Because, see, the subjects are going to be doing a lot of things that the board will not have time to do because we'll be governing. That's what the subjects are looking forward to doing. They've been doing it the whole time, and we have to when we thought we were citizens. That's not enslavement. They're going to love it because it's not going to be a, we're not past masters. We're not past masters. We are love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, period. So it says here, we stopped off at their former estate for and during the life or lives, or so long term as the said person or persons upon whose life or lives the said estate or estates depend shall be living, and also shall upon action, that's a court word, action or actions to be brought by him or them against the lessors, reversioners, or tenants in possession or other persons respectively, which since the time of the said eviction receive the profits of the said lands or tenements, recover for damages the full profits of the said lands or tenements respectively, with lawful interest for and from the time that he or they were outed of the said lands or tenements they kept or held out of the same by the said lessors, reversioners, tenants, or other persons who after the said eviction received the profits of the said lands or tenements, or any of them respectively, as well in the case when the said person or persons upon whose life or lives such estate or estate did depend are or shall be dead at the time of bringing of the said action or actions, as if the said person or persons were then living. And again, that is what we would have normally called a run-on sentence, but it's really not. It's actually putting everything in there together. In ancient English, we didn't really use a whole lot of punctuation because we just said what we thought and what we knew. So what this is saying is that now that we're alive and back in our former estate, then all shall be recovered. All, everything, and then some shall be recovered. That's all it's saying right there. It's proof that you are alive and that you were born in your sovereign state, and all will be recovered. It's right there in writing. Now, I want to also show you here. Now, if you'll notice, they put 2 and 3. They just put some dots here. The reason being is it's long. It's extensive. they actually ended up putting it in this. They said that part 2 of that was repealed, et cetera, et cetera. Again, so this is part 2. An act for further promoting the revision. And remember, our teachers teach us about reversion of estate. Same thing. Revision and reversion are the same. Revision, to see again. Reversion, to say again. Because verse and verbiage and reversion, those are all speaking. That means to say again. Revision is to see again. Promoting the revision of the statute law or the state law by repealing enactments, etc. And if you look at the date of this, it says the 30th of July, 1948. Well, what do we know happened presumably in 1948? Those that were doing business as the State of Israel Corporation came out of nowhere, and there they are. They're now the State of Israel, the chosen. That's what happened, presumably, in 1948. All of that that was all working together. So guess what happens when we put perpetuitie in red in all lowercase letters, issued by the sovereign state on the public record? Then that automatically puts the truth of that matter on the public record. And I'll say this about that whole chosen people piece. Yes, we're the chosen people. But law doesn't change. So chosen, that's a good word for this dimension. We didn't have a choice. We have to be the law. We were born to be the law. Any other choice means you just have to come back and do it again until you make the right choice. And if you want to keep coming back and going through that same stuff you've been through, if you keep doing the same thing you've been doing, you'll keep getting the same result. Expecting a different result is insanity. So now I went down through this document. It's going to bring it up as a PDF. I went down through this document, and I wanted to point out a specific. One of their specific acts in here, the Spirits Act of 1742. So they just kept adding things to the 1666 piece over time in order to keep putting things in order. They're saying unrepealed, okay? But this is an expansive document. It's going to be interesting to look through it and look at how they went through and changed the wording, the language that was being used. They were changing the language throughout just the same way that we do. When we go through documents that we see that are in, that were issued by the United States Corporation Company, we go through those documents in order to create them properly for our sovereign state. We just go through and look at it word for word, and we say, okay, we'll change that from this to sovereign. We'll change this from whatever, feudal or fee to allodial, etc. And you can see that they did the same thing with, and this actually is proof that they changed the original, and that the original did not say what their cestui said. It said what we meant for it to say in order to protect. Look here, right here at the top of the page. It says here, reign and chapter. You've heard the term the latter reign, the former reign and the latter reign. We are the former reign and we are the latter reign. Period. That is what it is. So that's why it's important for us to go ahead and fix these documents. We have to put them on the public record and fix them. And that's all that the Vatican and everything, that's all that they were doing, over the course of time. I used to wonder, what are they doing in those buildings? I know they don't have a 9-to-5 job. It's because they were writing the whole time. They had the scribes working. They were in there changing documents so that they could pretend to govern the air. They were changing documents repeatedly. That's all they did all day and all night, is change documents. And then get them out and distribute them out. And say, hey, United States Corporation Company, here you go. England, here you go. This came from the Pope, quote unquote. And then it talks about everything that has to do with us. Look here, the Profane Oaths Act of 1745. When you're talking about fake judges and fake magistrates and their oaths, never once will they ever tell you that they have a Profane Oaths Act in the cestui trust that they keep putting people in when they go to those fake courts. Anyone going to those fake courts, you're being put in the cestui trust every single time, unless you're the sovereign state and you're speaking in your sovereign status, period. And you have it on the public record that we're not the United States, we're not that state, we're this state. We're not the dead state, we're the living state. Or else they'll be doing profane oaths. And it's profane to the living. They say here in Section 7, the words from to be levied to magistrate and from in case to the end of the section. In Section 12, the words or hereinafter. They're adding titles and space and time span to the things that they're doing. This document was, it may bore some, but here, an act to enable His Majesty to allow the residuary legatee of Sir Joseph Jekyll Knight, part of the legacy given by his will to the use of the sinking fund. This is all commerce and lost at sea speak. There's a difference between admiralty law and lost at sea. We can do admiralty law, but we're not lost at sea. We have to make that clear on the public record, competently. And so all of this, we're putting all this. This document is many, many pages. This is just chapter 11 and 12 of the document. Let me see. And you will see the fraud in here. You'll see the fraud in here where they changed things that did not, that would indicate that they're not the real sovereign when you look through here. Here, an act for assigning a place proper for holding the market in the city of Westminster in lieu of the ancient marketplace called Round Wool Stable. They actually had to rename our ancient places, but that had to be legislated. It had to be legislated. That's how come the maps look all crazy or were looking crazy. And people are thinking that they're a citizen of a dead corporation. There it is, right there in writing. So I won't go any further through this document. It's there for you. The link has been placed in the chat. So we're putting this whole document in red in all lowercase letters, putting it on the public record, switching what needs to be switched, and all of that. That's the kind of work that we do, and issuing it as a court action from our state court as part of our estate so that no one is left unprotected on our estate. So this is geared towards the subject, not the heirs. The heirs are the sovereigns here. We're the ones changing and making the law, making and enforcing the law where cestui is concerned. We're not a part of cestui. We thought we were, but then we saved ourselves. And now we're looking back going, wait a minute, we got an estate too that needs to come with us. We're the estate, yes, but let's bring the whole estate. Everything comes with us. So, cestui, it's got a financial piece that talks about the banking and all of that. It's got the financial piece also. So, I want to show you where making laws and customs and all of that, we do have the authority on so many levels to do that. Are there any questions? Let me open the floor for questions, open the table rather, not the floor, but the table. Just one moment. Let me open the table for questions or comments or any. This one. Yes. So.
Where's your Moorish police force that you were pushing so hot and heavy there, Pauline?
Just a moment.
Where's your Moorish police force?
Get rid of that. We're it. we are the law and we are the government. And I'll tell you more. Listen, me and one of the banking consuls were speaking last week. Everything that we have done so far, we've done it without one gun, without one weapon, as it were. We've done everything that we've done without.
How come your financial person doesn't come on anymore then, Pauline?
Without any violence at all. None. What? We are all the financial people. We are all, and I'm just talking to the Moors, we're all the bank. We're all of that. Okay? So let's go ahead with this last, because I wanted to get to this last.
Where's all the people that used to support you, Pauline? Nobody shows up anymore. You don't.
Listen, let me tell you, They are trying very hard to turn us back, but we're there already. No spell out there to stop us. So let's look at this last canon. Just one moment. Let me get to this canon real quick, because this is where we were going in the first place. I just wanted to be sure that we could see what we needed to see. There. Okay. And again, all of this came from the Vatican. We're the original Vatican. Vatican is Timbuktu. That's us. Now, let me talk about liens for just a moment. This canon right here, as we go into this last canon, this canon right here is why we lien the Social Security number and the nom de guerre issued by them. That's why we lien it. Because look, that's what they've been doing in the first place. That's what makes it a warrant. Because anything that they issue, they place a lien on it from the very beginning. And guess who they expect to pay the lien? The one who's claiming to be under them. That's why they'll bring a whole group of them and try and kick in doors and take. Because they're expecting payment for that if we didn't rebut it. But we've rebutted that, and we have to keep rebutting it. So more those 6 documents and a lien on the social and a lien on that nom de guerre and the wardship name. Lien anything done by them. And then issue the rebuttal. The rebuttal is a sovereign security number. The rebuttal is your holy, sovereign born appellation in red and all lowercase letters as issued by the sovereign state, which is you. So that's where liens come from, and this is why we do that. Some didn't think that we should lien them because they were saying there was a benefit. Wait till you see the benefits we get as we're the sovereign state, because we are the sovereign state. There is nothing that can stop us this way when we're doing everything ourselves. That brings me to Canon 2052, which is the last one that we were going to look at today. The 3 sedicati trusts are the specific denial of rights of real property, personal property, and ecclesiastical property for most men and women. That means that there's some out there that doesn't apply to. Thank you. It says most men and women corresponds exactly to the 3 forms of law available to the gala of the Bar Association, quote-unquote, court. The first form, and they made sure they put the word form because that's what it is, it's colorable. The first form of law is corporate commercial law. Is quote-unquote, supposedly, presumably effective because of the first dedicated trust. The second form of law, that means it's not really law, is maritime and trust law is effective because of the second dedicated trust. The third form of law is Talmudic, and Roman cult law is effective because of the third dedicated trust of baptism. Because the Vatican issued the sedicati trust, and those, presumably, the fake, and those documents emanate from that dead thing, or emanated from that dead thing, that's what made it Talmudic. And that was automatic, supposed quote-unquote baptism, but it was baptism by fire, not by water, by fire. It's by water too, simply because, again, when, you know, they were claiming we were lost at sea, which we are not. They're right here. And I will say this about that. All three of those had to be properly rebutted, okay? Properly rebutted, and then a final cap put on it by the sovereign state saying, we're in charge of all of this that has to do with us. So proper rebuttal is leaning by court action, the thing that they use to initiate all of this. Now, this is the most important thing that I can say about perpetuitie and all of this that we've been going through. In the bibliotext, which is a trust document for the Vatican, it says they will come at you one way. Thine enemies will come at you one way, but they will flee from you 7 ways. And I often wonder if I just knew if we figure out that one way, we got this. We got the 7 mountains, the 7 hills of the capital. How do we take the hills? That one way was capitalism. Dead corporate capitalism is how they did that stuff right there. That's on the screen. That's how they did it. They created those 3 war rents. And anytime you create those, they created those 3 war rents, the Federal Reserve, you became contracted with the Federal Reserve, their fake one, because there's a real one. You became contracted with their fake Federal Reserve, and then the Federal Reserve was the holder of the contracts, and the Vatican would look in the system and see, okay, they're doing their job. They got a bunch of contracts over there. And then whenever anyone would show up in their fake fraudulent court and say, I'm a Moor, I'm a Moor, I'm not a U.S. citizen, all they would do is look in their system and see, are there any contracts with us, the United States Corporation Company? And that's not us. I'm just saying that's what they would say. Their fake judges would say, do they have any contracts? Let's see if they have any contracts that haven't been terminated. Presumed contracts at that. And they're presumed because they weren't properly rebutted. And if they see even one in there, then more, you know, sometimes they will say, well, this stuff don't work because they threw me in jail anyway. Do you have, and I've asked Moors this before. Sometimes on the phone I'll talk to Moors and they'll say, they still took my conveyance. Is the conveyance conveyed into the trust of the rights, the living state? Well, no, I didn't do that part. I declared my nationality. Oh, that's why we're talking on the phone and they didn't take you. But all that we do must be conveyed by our sovereign state. And it doesn't matter where you got the conveyance in terms of your exchanges, your sovereign exchanges. All that needs to be done is it needs to be issued and governed by the sovereign state. And we need to put an exchange on the public record saying, and that's why when we send out our affidavits, I always encourage Moors to send the larium with your affidavit. Send the larium with your affidavit, because that will rebut any claim where the fiat is concerned. We can get everything on our estate. The domiciles, the conveyances, all of that stuff is ours. We know that. But it's ours from the living state and not the dead one. And we've looked at what statehood encompassing. We've put that on the public record. What does statehood encompass? What does it mean? What do you do to become a sovereign state on the public record that's recognized? Recognition, what does recognition look like? That no one's going to bring you a big giant bouquet of roses. No. But when you state who you are and you properly notify, then you go about your business freely, traveling through and getting the things that you need and the things that you want from your vast estate. That's what recognition of the sovereign state looks like. And then after a while, you'll start to see recognition trickling in through the media. And that's coming. It's already here. We've seen several things. They know we're here. They know everything is done properly. We all have to do it. We all have to affirm and state our allegiance on the public record. And what are we really stating our allso to? Each other. Each other. And our ancestors. And our heirs. The bloodline. The birthright. That's to Allah. All law. So that Talmudic and Roman cult law and that third form of law is the spirit realm. It's the spirit realm. It's the spirit realm. And the spirit realm, all it is our intentions. Do we intend to do the right thing? What did we intend for our demonstration to demonstrate? What did we intend for our documents to say? And that's why sometimes, one more will do a document and another more will do a document, but the other more just copied their document and they're mad as heck. And they're like, I'm going to get them with these liens, and their liens don't seem to be working so well for them because they're at war. That's not what liens are for. They're not for war. They're for peace. They're to rid our land of corpses, of death, of dead, of debt. That's what liens are for. So, are there any other questions or comments, etc.?
Grand Rising, Islam.
Grand Rising, Empress. How are you?
Oh, just fine. Anyway, I recently heard a Moor say that because we are under military occupation, that it's okay to use the Federal Reserve notes. And that didn't really set good with me. And I just wanted to know your thoughts on that. Islam.
So we are in transition as a people, as a nation, as a land. But at what point do we just say, okay, enough? So, and go ahead and get in alignment with the law. At some point, we have to just say, okay, I'm just not doing that. Now, my thoughts on that also are this. We always say demonstrate at the level of your understanding. And if you ask the ancestors how to do that without violating the law until you can get to the next level of knowing how to do without Federal Reserve, knowing how not to even touch them. Because remember, Federal Reserve notes they're not ones and zeros in a machine. That's not a Federal Reserve debt note. A Federal Reserve debt note is private commercial paper. It's the paper. It's those green things. So I don't have them in my wallet. I don't use them or keep them. There's only been 2 times in the last year that my hands actually had to touch those, and that was only to help someone. But on a day-to-day, their private commercial paper, I don't use it. And I've been getting along just fine. I just swipe my card, swipe my card, swipe the card, swipe the card. And then I've been doing banking demonstrations, and I see how now not to use them, and you know our ancestors are not going to leave us hanging. They're not going to leave us hanging. So my thing, this is what I have to say about that. Always demonstrate at the level of your overstanding, but always be moving in the direction of your freedom from them, from those notes, those Federal Reserve debt notes. Study, do whatever you can to not have to use them. Do whatever you can to not use them. And just, if you have to just do everything by card, do that. And then let's learn how to get our banking to the point where we actually see ATMs printing out dollarium or spitting out dollarium. ATMs that we have set up, giving more dollarium. We're almost there. We're almost there. We just had to show our ancestral energies that the spirit was there, that the spirit wanted to be like them. We wanted the spirit of our ancestors. And of course they're going to provide that. But all along the way they're doing spirit checks and just making sure, okay, make sure there's no war energy there. Make sure there's no revenge. So just clear your energy. Make sure there's no greed. Because that, you know, we have to get rid of those things that would cause us to not do the right thing with the wealth that we have. It's a lot of wealth. It's a lot of wealth, more than we've ever known. And we have to make sure that we are clearing energies every day. But for those that are using Federal Reserve debt notes, just know that, number one, they're not going to be here much longer for those who are using them, because so many have decided not to use them. And that doesn't mean don't do your banking and, you know, things like that. If you need to do that and go to the grocery store, swipe your card, you know, go ahead and do those things. Just terminate all corporate contracts so that as you're swiping your card and doing your banking and everything, it's being done by your sovereign state. And we're going to be showing some demonstrations coming up here soon where, you know, that question won't even be a question in 6 months. Won't even be a question. But everybody knows that. Everybody knows that Federal Reserve debt notes are not going to be here. They're not. So we might as well go ahead and move in the direction of that the Spirit is leading us all in. And as often as you can, stay away from those green things that are printed out. Stay away from those. And use your card if you have a card, use a card, or the applications, the Cash App and the PayPal and all of that to do the things you need to do. And then for everything that needs to be done, just make sure that in the meantime you're sending out affidavits and dollarium and getting your sovereign status on the public record. That's the most important thing we could do right now. We're giving proper notification that we're here and that we're going to be doing state banking and not bed banking. It's already, it's a wrap. It's already, you know, all you got to do is you can look at even the media is saying, oh, everything's changing. Oh my gosh, everything's changing. Yes, it's done already. We already did it. All of us. But simply by saying in our spirit, we don't want that anymore. Babylon has fallen, period. It's a wrap. We got this. We just have to move in the direction. And I'll say this, for those who are still using Federal Reserve debt notes, just even if you feel like you can't do without them, just give the ancestors, just say to the ancestral spirit within you, please help me to not have to use these. And your freedom from them begins from the moment you say that. Because they're going to create situations that will cause you to not use them. When it's time for you to not use them, situations will come up where they won't help you anyway. Some people have had tons of that stuff, but because they didn't have the right something, they couldn't even use them. Because something changed in the system that said, we can't take that. Most of the stores don't take quote unquote cash. Because we've already spoken in the spirit realm and it's manifesting in the natural. So for those who are still using it, don't beat yourself up about that, because you don't need to have that war energy on the inside of you. You don't need to be warring with yourself about that. Just call upon, your higher self and say, I need to be free from this, because it's not helping. Because as much as people, listen, it never fails. Everybody that I see who says, I'm just going to use it because I'm going to use it because that's what we use. Some of the brokest people you have ever met, because they're hard-headed, they're resistant to their true status. And they got more, because see, when you use that stuff and you're just insistent on using it, you're inviting all the problems that come with it and all the debt that comes with it. And then you got to fight off the debt because they know you're still using their military script. Are we under military occupation? No. No, we are not. The only ones that are under military occupation are the ones who claim to be. If they think they're under military occupation, then they're the sovereign, and the military is supposed to come occupy. From my perspective, we're not under military occupation, because all it takes is the right spirit in the energy, and then let that manifest on the document. No, we're not under military occupation. That's not, if we were, I wouldn't be sitting here. I would not be sitting, and many Moors would not be sitting where they are. There's a lot of Moors who know we're not under military occupation, because it's by our words that any of that either manifests or is abolished and goes away. It's by our sovereign word. We're not under military occupation. Unless whoever, again, if you say you are, you are. Because you're sovereign. And even if they were nowhere around, they're going to have to come and start doing stuff to you that occupiers do, because you said it. That's that third cestui trust in action. It's what you say in your spirit that comes out of your mouth. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. That's the law. And if you say you're under military occupation, that third cestui trust kicks in, the one that's created by the fakes, and they will come and occupy. But see, as far as I'm concerned, our sovereign military is our protection. So then in the spirit realm, the ancient ancestral energies are protecting. Because no military can beat that. Them. Our ancestors who are within us, guns don't work. None of that works. Doesn't work. So you have what you say. Because actually what you say is a statement. It's all in the language. If you claim an occupied state, then you're in an occupied state. You just renounced your allegiance to a sovereign living state that is not occupied by anything or anyone but the ancestral energies. The statements that we make determine our state and therefore determines our estate. And anything we say, one of those is going to kick in either for the dead state or the living state. So that's why we clear up our language and make sure that our language is living language as issued by the sovereign state. So that the right trust kicks in and abundance starts flowing. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you for that, Empress, because that's a good question. People, you know, I hear that too sometimes, and, you know, you have what you say.
Islam.
Islam.
One more. Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Let the Empress go, and then Emperor, you can go after her.
Correct. Thank you, Noble. On this cestui vk trust, however you pronounce it, I often hear the hybrids say that this trust gives them land ownership and to a right to some sort of financial compensation. I've never read this document, and I just wanted to know if there's anything to that. Islam.
So
does that make any sense?
It does. Look at the language of the document. It talks about tenements and what else does it talk about? It says I saw something in here. Okay, that was the whole set of KV. It talked about tenements and landlords. So when they say ownership, let me spell that for you so that you know what they're really saying. This is the ownership that they're talking about right here. It is the ownership. That means that they owe for more. That's why none of them have title to domiciles, and no one had title under the dead state. When the Moors have title, the subjects do get a servant is worthy of his hire. That's where that comes in at. Let me put it that way, because I thought that's in the Holy Quran. So we do, and this is why they keep saying you'll own nothing and you'll love it. You're going to love it, because we are generous masters. We're generous masters. But if you'll notice, they're saying that Theta KV gives them some ownership, but they didn't have any under the default because a lot of them was getting evicted too. So there was no ownership there. They're talking about when the Moors come back. And when the Moors come back, their master, their creator, their Lord. When the real landlords come back, which we're back, we're here, then a servant is worthy of his hire. But Empress, listen to me carefully, because see, some Moors don't want to hear that part because they don't see their own, what they're entitled to as the heir. The entitlement comes with the erudition. The entitlement comes with the erudition for us. And it comes with the erudition. The subjects have always known. Number one, they've always known who we are. Number two, they know that we are the heirs to everything, that we have title to everything. That's common knowledge. And that's why they refer to this trust as issued by the Vatican. Who's the real Vatican? Who's the real Pope? Don't we have the unum sanctum document, the affidavit that we put out over a year and a half ago? Unum sanctum is everyone is under the Roman Pontiff, and the Roman Pontiff is all Moors. So the subjects know that, yes, a servant is worthy of his hire. They have to get in subject status, and they're ready for that. They're already in subject status. And then we go about doing what we're doing. Okay, and Empress, it'll be clearer as you see the vast estate continuing to roll out and that red carpet thing, when you see that. But we must be demonstrating who we are already. We have to be demonstrating who we are already. Listen, when our prophet said, children, you are just plain rich, and he was talking about children back then, but he really meant the heirs, the mature, the majority heirs. Of course, our heirs are too, but we're just plain rich. Our prophet did not lie. I'm watching in the study and in the demonstrations how it's unraveling, and I can't even tell you all of it right now because it's too much to tell. But we're so wealthy that we can just create wealth out of thin air, and it's honored. But we have to use it. We have to be prepared to know how to use that. Number one is to raise the nation, to expand the empire, to assist in the other states and nations within the empire, to assist them in getting up and going in their territories. That's first and foremost, because that's going to grow everything else. It creates veins, a Venus system by which the wealth can go out and be responsibly used. But Empress, we're just plain rich. I'm telling you, we're just plain rich. I don't know how else to say that. I don't know how else to say it.
Thank you.
I don't know how else to say it. And, people will see it when it's time for them to see it. They'll see it when they're ready to see it. I don't know how else to say it. Our ancestors have given us access to everything. We just have to prove that we're ready to be responsible and honorable. Because just think for a second, what would you do if someone gave you just randomly $10 million today? Do you have something written out that you would do? Do you have a plan? What are you doing already? What are you good at? What do you want to do? There are some who've been doing this work for many, many years. They took the bare minimum and said, we're just going to do what we can even under quote unquote military occupation. They just did what they could. They're going to be rewarded for that. because they were willing to be themselves, even in the in situations where they were just created, even under, supposedly under military occupation. They still said, I don't care what happens, I don't care what goes on, I'm going to be myself and we're going to grow our empire. We have teachers who've been out here for 20 and 30 years, 40, 50 years doing this. And they said, no matter what, I know I'm not a U.S. citizen, and if I have to be hungry and poor and broke, I'm just going to be that because I'm not giving in, you know. We're so wealthy, it's unbelievable, and when it's time for those who need to see it, they'll see it, and they'll be able to access it because, and we all have access to it. Let's get that straight. No one's more special than anyone else. We all have access to it. All we have to do is clear our energy and keep demonstrating our sovereign status and watch. Like that is coming. It's just going to open up. And that's practical. I'm talking opening up right down the street, at the grocery store, here, there, everywhere, you know. So, yeah, I mean, thank you for that.
Sometimes
hopefully I answered it.
Just to be true.
Yeah. Yes, Empress, because some have put they put their whole lives on hold, not on hold, but on the line, and they, you know, we've got teachers who've been out here for a long time eating ramen noodles for years, trying to get the word out, you know. And to know that everything that they said was true, that's enough for me. That's enough for me. Now that, I mean, I can see now. I can see. And I am actually just sending energies out that please clear your energy so you can see. And most Moors have clear energy, you know. They know about energy clearing. That's that third one. It's number 3 for a reason. That third trust is the spirit realm. And if we get that spirit realm, you know, as we get the spirit realm, continue to clear, those other 2 and everything that comes with it will be. Because, see, if you even look at the order of the trust, the first one is corporate, commercial, you know. That's the banking and the grocery store and the clothing store and the businesses and the, you know, all of that. That's that part. That's the first trust. The second one is maritime. Maritime is the merchants pulling from the land and providing the things that the retailers need. And then that third trust is, are we able to do all of that peacefully, in a peaceful manner, and everybody being honorable and all of that? Are we able to do that? Yes. You know, the spirit realm is number 3 because it kind of caps off everything else. Because the stuff already belongs to us. We just needed to be able to see in the spirit realm. And we can see in the spirit realm now. I'm glad, and I know you all are glad too that you can see in the spirit realm. So there was a noble who had a question as well.
Islam, Empress Black Bay.
Islam.
I spoke to you. I want to thank you first of all. Such a joy listening to you talk and doing your demonstration. We all feel your warmth and your love. You know, and I just love listening to you talk. My question is, I remember last... Can
you speak up just a little bit, Nobility? Put your mouth a little closer to yours. Yeah. Thank you.
Can you hear me better?
Yes, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. I've got my headphones. Okay, so last year, I remember listening to a demonstration that you were doing, And you were saying at the time that when we use our Valarian, we should keep a record. And you did a demonstration. I think you went on the the Gmail, and I can't remember. You went in there somewhere and pulled up like an Excel spreadsheet, and I've been looking for it everywhere, and I could not find it. I'm wondering if you could just show us. So we need,
I'll be happy to.
Yep. Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you for that. You know, sometimes, because that's part of all that we're doing too, sometimes I always say that I'm not going to talk about certain things, and then the ancestors has someone to ask a question about it. So I end up talking about it anyway. Okay. So can you see my Gmail on the screen? Let me put it on the screen. Hang on just a second. In fact, I think what I'll do before I put it on the screen is go to Google first. Let me go there first. Just one moment. Okay. Okay. Hopefully you can see Google search engine on the screen.
Yeah, you can see it now.
Okay. All right. So in order to get to that spreadsheet, what you do is right up here in this corner, in the far right corner where my cursor is, and I hate that, well, I don't hate it, we spell it differently. It's a cursor, a pointer. There are these dots. And these dots have different parts of Google that you can go to. What you would do is go to Google Sheets, which is here, and click on Google Sheets. And from here, you can see the pages that you've created, et cetera, et cetera. Let me see. And I will click on one of these, or you can create one. And you will see here the spreadsheet, and you put on it whatever it is that whatever you're doing with regard to your banking. Okay. Let me see. Scroll back. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So, and this is where you would find that. Okay. Now, as part of what we're doing, these pages are going to be very important, because this is going to be where we show other banks in our sovereign state what the balance is on our account. Okay? So what we will do is, on our treasury checks that we create, we just put a link, this link up here. We will put that link on the check, and the page should always be to where only you can edit it. Only you and whoever you delegate to edit your bank account. And the banks will be able to look and see what the balance is in that account.
Hey, Pauline, how come you never wear your uniform? Come on,
Okay,
Pauline.
hopefully you can hear me. Hopefully you can hear. Okay, good. So that is how you get to that page. Were you able to see that, nobility? How to get to that page?
Oh, yes. Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Once you start, I kind of remembered, but thank you.
Okay.
Much appreciated.
Yes. So that's how you get to the page, and that's how you create it. Now, some might think that, just listen, we got this whole, the banking thing is a piece of cake in our state. It's a piece of cake in our state. So but we have to be competent, and our math needs to be, so before you create an instrument in our state, before you create the instrument, or as you're creating your instrument, you will be taking it from your account. And then when you send that instrument out with the link, it will already say that the exchange has taken place in your account, and that amount of credit has been removed from your account. So whoever you send it to will be able to see that that they've received it, and then in there you can put tracking information, and because you could see that there was some tracking information in the page as well, of which we have so much more of that to upload. I'm so grateful for my my minister who helped me with this work. My daughter, who's uploading all of the tracking numbers and all of that stuff from the certified mailings, which our mailings have been just working beautifully. So, get ready to do your banking. And then there's a way that the instruments, there's a certain way that the instruments are going to go out as well. The nobility that spoke, what territory are you in? Or are you domiciled at?
So, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes, yes.
I'm in the UK. I'm the first,
yeah.
Remember me? I told you last year.
It's great to hear your voice. Yes, our UK territory, you all are so important to what we're doing. You're so important. You see that, though, don't you?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I've been told, and I know you've been passing the message on, and very happy and very pleased to be here and be part of all of this as well, and very fortunate as well.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for being here, Nobility. We honor your presence.
Thank you. Thank you. I take it then the next step for us is to link all of this to the banking system. So I think that's something we'll be talking about, all of us other Moors who are actually active at the moment. We'll be talking and finding out the ways that we can link so that this spreadsheet is linked to the bank. So, that's the other thing we'll be doing as well. So,
So, you know how, banks will give you a website to go to check your balance? Yeah. It's the same thing. Except each one of us is in charge of our banking website. Yeah. We determine what's in there in our sovereign state. And then we just put that link on our documents, and we're going to demonstrate that. along the way. But when I say more that we are just plain rich, we really are. We can do whatever we want to do in our vast estate. We just have to be prepared, because to whom much is given, there's much responsibility that comes with that. So the same way that banks in other states do business, we do it the same way. The same way. Give them a link to the bank account so that they can see, okay, because see, in the past, when the United States Corporation Company, whenever a new bank would do something, and I'm talking about the subjects, when the new bank would open and start doing business, the merchants would have to pick up the phone and call the bank to see if that amount was in the account. And merchants actually took the time to pick up the phone and call the bank and see, is this amount in here? And if the bank said, yes, that amount is in there, they would get the authorization number and put the authorization number on the instrument, and then take the instrument and give you whatever it is that you wrote the instrument for. And again, we're going to be doing that same analog banking also, except they won't have to call anyone. They can just pull the link up, because they're at computers anyway. But then there's also going to be other measures that we're taking that if you don't want to write an instrument, but the instruments will be for more big ticket items, is what they call it. And so the instruments, you send them ahead of time and say, hey, we want this refrigerator or this, this stove or this domicile or whatever, and you send that instrument ahead of time. And when you send the instrument ahead of time, the approval will already be in place, because the link is going to be there saying that that amount is has already been pulled out of there, and that amount is sitting on the instrument, so that when they go to put it in their bank, their bank is just going to say, okay, this is the instrument, and they'll do what they always do. No computer does that. They will get the check and they'll go in and input that amount into the system and say, this was received today from the Empire State of Morocco Bank. That's how checks, or they will have a check machine where, you know how they would put the check in this machine and it will do a little half circle and read the routing number and everything on the bottom. That can be done too. And when that is done, the system will read it, and it'll take in the amount and pull the amount from. And for us, the amount will always be pulled, so that when they run the instrument through, then it would automatically give like an open, yes, that amount is available. Because we kind of never run out. So it's all coming together very, very beautifully, very beautifully, very beautifully. Our ancestors knew what they were doing, and they also knew that this needed to happen over time and not all at once. Because if we had known all at once, all of this all at once, it would have been a little overwhelming, to say the least. So it's coming together. And then, of course, we're going to put the process out there as led by the ancestors on just the best way to do that. So that our cohesiveness is there, and also, some very few, it's just probably a very small percentage of Moors probably is not ready for that kind of funds, and we all know some. And at one point, we were in that same category, not ready for that amount, and that's why the ancestors didn't give us those keys like they're giving those keys to us now, because we were not ready. And so as we clear our spirit and continue demonstrating their unfolding and showing us and giving us access to the processes that we need in order to make these things manifest for our nation and our state. But again, we had to come together as a state and do these things that we're doing and have our own money, our own language, our own everything, our own government, everything, and then know that everything depends on what we do, our work that we do. So the timing is perfect. Yeah, it's perfect timing. So are there any other questions or comments? So happy to have our UK Moors on the call. Happy. He's on.
Hi, Constable UK Territory. I have a question. First of all, let me say, keep doing the good work you're doing. It's great, you know. And I have a question. We are in touch with Noble Jeremiah, the brother that I spoke to you, Mole. He's been sending us some documents, and one of the documents he sent us is validity of AFV, which is accepts for value. Being that we're in this transition, we could still use accepted for value to settle any debt that they might want to send to us. Can you speak on that?
Okay. Yes. So first of all, know that the debt is not your debt. Okay. But you do want to properly rebut the debt. So we have put on the public record the ways to do that as fiduciary for the sovereign state. Some do not think, some are still kind of like looking at the sovereign state as if it's like sovereign state, and it's not. So make sure that on your documents that you have, that you're using Empire State of Morocco somewhere on your documents. And with regard to accepted for value, always demonstrate at the level of your overstanding. Always, always. Okay, with that. Justice Jeremiah, if he has given some assistance on how to use it, then as always, with all documents, including the ones we place on the public record, study them, study the process. And the process should make sense lawfully. It should make sense lawfully. There should be somewhere in the law to support the document. There should be some law on the document. The document should quote the law somewhere on there, so that you can go back and look at that and say, okay, this is why this document is being done and how it's being done. You know, we especially say that about any documents, but starting with the name change and judicial proclamation, they tell you that you have the jurisdiction to do accept it for value. But you must know, now, the key to that, and this is why I'm saying what I'm saying, nobility. Yes, you can do accept it for value, but know who's accepting the value and who the value is. So the debt that came is coming to a name. That name, this is the question for you to always know the answer to. And this is why the fiduciary document is so important. Who owns that name? Does the United States Corporation Company own it by default because you know there's not been proper rebuttal? Or do you own it because you liened the United States Corporation Company, you liened the nom de guerre that they created, you liened the Social Security number that they created, and then you said, okay, I'm the fiduciary for this name, which is an instrument. It's simply a method to convey, and it's going to convey according to its creator. If you created it, conveys credit, okay, and then accept it for value is you can do that because you're conveying credit with accepted for value. I'm going to pull up this quickly because that is a very important question, and that is the crux of the matter for everything that we do. I'm going to put on the screen. Now, this is after you have liened the nom de guerre and the social, and also liened the United States Corporation Company. And that's leaning them by court action, sovereign court action, like the court action language at the top of the document. Okay. See, states can do those processes because that is the estate speaking. We see that the word state and estate is the same thing. So when you say you're the Empire State of Morocco, which is ancient, because the documents and the paperwork are not under the United States Corporation Company, when you say that you're the state, you're presenting the estate. Anyone wanting to say, don't put the estate on, don't put the Empire State of Morocco on your paper. Don't do that. We're universal. Don't fall for that, please. Now, some that's okay for some who want to demonstrate that, but you must rebut the United States Corporation Company with a valid living state in order to do accept it for value. And guess what? Between states, they have to accept that because they're not even a real state. You're the real state. Now, this fiduciary document is you taking complete control of the capitalism that they were using. See? They were using the one way. That's the only way they can do anything that they were doing, is if we consent to their capitalism and not using our own, and not being the fiduciary and trustees of our own capitalism. Capitalism is the only way they can even write a contract. They can't even write a contract. They can't even use these instruments, which are, for us, it's not a name, it's an instrument. They can't even use these instruments called Pauline Denise Ritchie. They can't even use those instruments because they belong to the Empire State of Morocco and they've been properly proclaimed on the public record, properly. See, some have been trying to trademark the United States Corporation Company's instruments. You can't do that because the trademark office is there too, under their dead trademark office. The trademark office is living when the Moors use it because we lien the dead one. And then we say we're the fiduciary to anything that might have to do with us. And that's where banking is getting cleaned up. That's where banking is getting cleaned up. Because they can't even speak about you or any of your property or resources unless they have permission from the Empire State. What is permission? Permission is another way to say consent or assent. So you got to take their ability to use that instrument that they created fraudulently, take their ability to use that away, and then present the real one and say, now you can use this one. That means I get to tell it what to do. That means we're now able to do what corporations have been doing. You know, when I think about corporations like Walmart and Western Union and all of that, you know, they were not doing anything but creating out of thin air something to put in a system and have it go to another part of their system, and then somebody else would come and claim it, and then they would say, okay, give them Federal Reserve debt notes. They did that out of nothing. They created Federal Reserve debt notes out of nothing but permission, assent, will, and an autograph, a signature.
Mm-hmm.
All states have the authority to do that, except the state has to be in the right jurisdiction, and that's where the sovereign state comes in at. We're in a living jurisdiction, not a dead one. That's why we had to have our own everything, you know, and we do on the public record. That's a great question. Great question. Thank you. I'm honored. I love that one. That's one of my favorite ones to talk about because we have the remedy.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that document is also on the Google page. Did they show the novel a little while ago?
No, it's not on that page. What I showed the novel a little while ago was the bank account page. But this document, I will put this document under this video. And you can download it and edit it and redo it and claim all that is yours. Create all that is yours. Because you're not claiming, let's clarify, you're not claiming their straw.
No.
It's called a straw because it's empty and dead. Nothing that we create is empty or dead or lifeless. So it becomes a living instrument when we use it. It's not a name, it's an instrument. Yeah.
Also,
so I'll put this one under the video so you can get it.
Also, me and the noble who you just spoke to, Mole, we are about to complete the Estate Express Trust document.
Yes, big one.
We just about, we've been talking to Abassi constantly on that level, so we're about to get that on the public record as well.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Always just, you know, let your spirit be your first and last resource for information. Justice Abassi and Justice Gilmore are doing awesome work.
Yep,
we love the work that we're doing too, but always let your spirit be the first and final on all that you do. Your spirit along with your studies.
Yeah. We're studying every day.
We know, we can feel it in your spirit.
I hear.
And the other noble, we're so glad you're on as well. Noble. The other noble from the United Kingdom.
Empress Morley. Yes, it's a pleasure being on here at this time, talking to you now, maybe 5 months after I first spoke to you. And thank you for putting me in touch with Consu. He's a great guy, great person to know, to be able to work with, and just very, very thankful that I'm able to work with someone like this and be doing what I'm doing and be in the place I am right now. Thanks to you. Thank you.
It is my honor. Always, it's my honor. You just don't know how happy this whole work, all of this makes me. It makes me very happy, even with all that we've been through. We're just happy to help in any way we can.
Okay.
We're all being helped at the same time.
Islam.
Yeah. Islam. Just know that your voices are giving me lots of energy too. I didn't even need any more energy, but your voices are just, they're music to my ears. I love that. Thank you. And that happens all the time, so forgive me. Are there any other questions and comments or anything from any of the heirs? We got this, heirs. It's all right. Done. Okay. With that being said, we will meet back again in a week, Thursday, same time, same place. And for those, happy Moorish American Week, because this week is Moorish American Week. The 8th through the 15th of each January is Moorish American Week. We are having a little celebration here in the West Territory at the Alhambra at Tacoma. We're excited about that. If you want more information about that, Empress Simone Selket-L is on social media, but you can look at the Alhambra at Toulouse Facebook page for more information as well. And then I have the postings on my social media page too. With that being said, peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Peace.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Islam.
Any links in the chat, Empress? Any links in the chat that I need to?
Yes. Thank you for the reminder. I will do that right now.
All right. Thank you, Empress.
You're welcome. Nobility. Let's see. Islam.